Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing
Yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
And it looks like Anthony Rumble Johnson either fucked somebody's wife or they want him to. We might have the world's most aggressive cuck on our hands. Anthony Rumble Johnson took to Twitter and said, since I have a real stalker, how about next time we be accurate with what I'm doing? Taking pictures of my ride, emailing me, leaving a note on the car doesn't do anything. That's D-level kitty stuff. Step your game up and come and get me. It reminds me of the Scary Movie, the comedy. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, but that is some creepy shit. You got people sending you pictures where you're eating, leaving notes on your car, especially when you're somebody with, like, that's Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's essentially now a fucking bodybuilder since leaving the UFC, but he still has fucking skills that kill. Like, if you get into a street fight with Rumble Johnson, there's a very good chance your eggs are getting scrambled. So you would normally think you would be the one ducking your motherfucking taco. But here you got a guy playing games with death and shit. He's playing with the Grim Reaper, walking around Anthony Rumble Johnson, taking snapshots right before he takes a bite and all type of craziness. So this is kind of interesting, the fact that somebody's actually stalking a bodybuilder and Anthony Rumble Johnson. But whenever I went to do my research for this video, yo, when I was just doing research for the thumbnail, and I went down a rabbit hole, full-time family. So walk with me. This video is about to go from the jokes to somewhat serious matter, because you know, all right, let me walk you to how I got to where I am here. So first I was looking for a thumbnail, right? I looked up Anthony Rumble Johnson stalker chick. I was just gonna see if there's any Google images to make for the thumbnail. And this is what came up when I Googled Anthony Rumble Johnson and crazy stalker. Oh, snaps. It was the first thing on Google, right? You look at the bottom of your screen. Mother of Anthony Rumble Johnson's children gets a restraining order. I was like, ugh, that's not what I was looking for. But since I'm here, let me click it and see what's going on here, because I wasn't too familiar with this story. And whenever I clicked it, it didn't give the chick's name, but allegedly it was one of Anthony Rumble Johnson's, or the only one. I don't know how many babies' mother he has, but if he has one, it was her. But this is what it says. On 9/05/14, I met with the complainant, and she redacted her name, so you don't have her name. It says at the DBPD in reference to a domestic dispute. She advised she is frightened by the father of their children, Anthony Johnson. She stated that 2 years ago, Johnson hit her in the face and knocked out 2 of her teeth. Since that incident, she had several other verbal altercations with Johnson. She has only reported one of the incidents to the police. I didn't want to go here. I'm not trying to point anything out on Rumble Johnson, but what this really fired my mind up to think about is Greg Hardy. I'm like, yo, how do you have people from the MMA community coming out and saying that they're so far against what happened in Greg Hardy's case that he doesn't even deserve a shot? He doesn't even deserve an opportunity to train in an MMA gym to try and turn his life around? And he only had that one incident. And so I knew they were out there, but I wasn't digging around. Who are all the UFC fighters that have ever hit a female? Because my thoughts are, how can you fucking paint Greg Hardy as nothing but a woman beater, a guy that had one incident? And also in that incident, because I went down this rabbit hole for this video, Greg Hardy also had bruises on him. There was a picture that came out of Greg Hardy's girlfriend, and in this case, and I hate Rumble Johnson's the example, but he was talking about he had a stalker, so I went looking for a damn thumbnail, and we end up on Rumble Johnson's case, and now we're talking about domestic battery and Greg Hardy. But what I was saying is, Greg Hardy's a guy that, and I don't like using names because I'm not trying to put people on blast, but one of the names that stood out to me, there was a coach, I believe his name was Jay Glazer, I believe, and I knew him back when I used to watch NFL and shit. I knew of his name. But also he's an MMA coach, I believe, trainer, and he was one of the guys that came out like, yo, do not open your doors to Greg Hardy. This guy has a checkered past. We should not give him the opportunity. We don't support people like that. My thought is, well, motherfucker, we should already, you should have been on the worrying about cleaning up your sport first, right? Before you worry about who's coming in. And that's just my mind. Like, how can you say, no, we don't even want Greg Hardy. We don't want to give him a second chance. We don't want to give him another opportunity to change his life around and show that that's not who he is. When you got fighters that have their own checkered past. And real quick, full-time family, before you forget, make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying this video. And also, if you're new, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to see more videos like this, just check out the video description, the Full-Time MMA Dojo over here at patreon.com/fulltimemma. And you can see a lot of other cool things, including the goals of this channel, which is something new. So make sure you go check that out. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of the video. So that's where my mind went to. And then if you compare the two situations, which I did because I felt like I had to now that I'm this deep in the fucking rabbit hole. But either when you compare the two situations with Anthony Rumble Johnson, the guy that's already a UFC fighter, it was his baby mama. And I'm not saying that makes it any worse or better, but in Greg Hardy's situation, it was his girlfriend. And also in that case, in that situation, he had bruises on himself that might have been a sign of self-defense. And yeah, I get it. It's a female. You don't need to defend yourself from a female. Like, I know people feel that way. Yeah, even if she hits you, bro, that doesn't give you the right to defend yourself. Like, just take that shit. Eat all of that shit. If she's throwing them at you full force, I don't give a fuck if it's Chris Cyborg. You gotta eat that shit because it's a female. And so people aren't gonna give you an excuse no matter how many bruises you got. It don't matter what happened. If you're the big guy and she's the woman, she's always the victim. And so with that, in that instance, Greg Hardy is now looked at, no matter what, as the fucking criminal. He's got a checkered past, even though she didn't cooperate and follow through with the charges, so it's not on his record. He's still looked at as Greg Hardy, the fucking woman beater. And so to see that there's already other people, and it was literally around the same time. Greg Hardy's incident happened in 2014. Rumble Johnson's incident happened in 2014. Greg Hardy's resurfaced in 2015 after the pictures came out, but they literally happened around the same time in 2014. One UFC fighter, one Greg Hardy, but Greg Hardy's the guy that gets looked at as the guy that is a serial woman beater, and he had one incident. So that really stood out to me. But other than that, man, yeah, Rumble Johnson's being stalked in real life, and so after all of that, one might say it is karma. No, I'm just kidding. We could talk about that another time for another day, but I don't even know about that karma shit. But either way, man, just to give you a little more of the details and just to keep going with this subject, I got a couple more things. And so in this rabbit hole, I also stumbled upon this, and this was from after that incident. And this was actually when I had a YouTube channel. I remember Anthony Rumble Johnson coming out and saying this. And this was a Facebook post that he posted, and it wasn't his baby mama or whoever was in that original incident, but this was just some ugly girl at the gym. But all I'm saying is, if a guy's got a checkered past for putting his hands on a female and he shows more aggressive signs toward a female, that's probably someone you should be more worried about than like a fucking Greg Hardy. And that's just my opinion. Maybe they've seen other instances of Greg Hardy that we haven't. I've only heard about that one incident with Greg Hardy. But I mean, just looking up Rumble Johnson's Stalker, where he's the victim, you find all of this stuff. And so with that being said, this is what Anthony Rumble Johnson had to say to the ugly girl in the gym built like a bag of dry dog food. Yo, he should have used that on like one of his opponents. That's a really good trash talk line. He should have used that like against Daniel Cormier. You're built like a fucking bag of dry dog food. That's a good one. It don't even matter how you look. If someone says it's like a bag of dry dog food, that's bad. But alright, jokes aside. Anthony Rumble Johnson said to the ugly girl in the gym built like a bag of dry dog food, "This is for you. If you get in my way and any other athlete again, I'll throw your yoga mat across the gym again. Who in their right mind stretches where people are supposed to lift? Don't ever run your mouth at me again." God, my bad, that God came out because it sounds so aggressive. But I'm going to read this without my fucking thoughts. Who in their right mind stretches where people are supposed to lift? Don't ever run your mouth at me again. You won't win the battle, I will. Talking about it was rude that I lifted next to you while you were stretching. You need more than stretching to help your beat up body. Run to the front of the desk again, crying, talking about you feel threatened and you're going to go to social media. I really don't care. I've been through the worst. That's an athlete's gym, not a yoga studio. That fake crying does nothing for anybody, by the way. Just like the guy said, you live in his neighborhood and you exaggerate and overreact all the time. So one more time, don't run your mouth and don't do yoga stretching where people lift weights, or I'll snatch the mat from under you again and throw it again. Understand? Good girl. One more thing, stop wearing sports bras when your tummy looks like an old country red clay dirt road. Holy smokes, he started and ended it off with some pretty crazy disses. But in the middle of those funny disses was a whole lot of aggression. Understand? Good girl. Don't ever do it again, or I'll throw it again. It's like, holy smokes, Rumble Johnson, chill. It's just a chick trying to get her stretch on, and she might look like a bag of dry dog food. But damn, bro, I mean, to me, that seems like some roid rage type shit. And it's, you know, pretty amped up in this situation. But hey, it is what it is. He didn't resort to violence, though. And so just because he showed aggression doesn't mean he made that same mistake. But alright, we'll get off of Anthony Rumble Johnson because I really didn't want to have to use him for an example. But this shit just turned into, it just ended up this way, man. I see a headline about Rumble Johnson has a stalker. I'm looking for the thumbnail and we get down this rabbit hole. Now, with that being said, everybody knows about Greg Hardy's domestic violence history, and everybody wants to see him fight Derrick Lewis. Well, here's my thoughts. I'm surprised ain't nobody motherfucking talked about Derrick Lewis versus Rumble Johnson yet. I'm surprised Derrick Lewis ain't came out, hey Rumble Johnson, you used to fight a heavyweight. Bring your woman beating ass on up here. You know what I'm saying? Derrick Lewis don't like people like that. So that's all I'm saying. Maybe that's a fight. If Rumble Johnson ever comes back, he has talked about fighting a heavyweight. And that's really the whole reason everybody wants to see Derrick Lewis fight Greg Hardy. Because people are looking at Greg Hardy like the fucking walking embodiment of a woman beater. And I'm just saying, there's people that have made mistakes in their past. And like I said before, when I was talking about Greg Hardy, every person that has put their hands on a woman is not the exact same. Just because one person might have got punched in his face by Chris Cyborg and defended himself is not the same as some weak-ass motherfucker that's just beating up his fucking girlfriend because he's a pussy and doesn't want to fight anyone else and doesn't have any, whatever you want to call it, to hold him back. He's a fucking puss, so he wants to, you know, take out his anger on a girl. But he's even still different than somebody who's got like fucking anger issues and they went through some crazy stuff. So all I'm saying is you can't paint everyone under the same stroke. Yeah, you know, so with that being said, I've said enough on this video for sure, man. But back to the beginning, Rumble Johnson is being stalked in real life. And somebody's putting notes on his car, taking pictures of him eating and shit. For all we know, it might be one of his, you know what I'm not gonna go there. I want to say like one of his baby mama's people. It's like, hey, we still remember that shit back in 2014, homeboy. Here's a note. that tiramisu looks good. I'm just saying, man, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. And if you're the stalker of Anthony Rumble Johnson, you better be motherfucking careful, dog. Duck your motherfucking taco. If he comes out there and finds you putting a note on his car, your eggs are guaranteed getting scrambled, brother. And before we get out of here, thanks to John H. for the $10 donation. Much appreciated. I'm out. And before we go, shout out to all the full-time MMA white belts that have hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to become a full-time MMA blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, or black belt, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/fulltimemma. I'm out.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOG.